Goes to a barber also used to be a military fund. Every time he comes home, I said, look like he just came into boot camp.
All right, good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight. So first, to point out the exits, that's the door you came in. So you go out there, that door goes directly outside. And then this will go through my office and out into that hallway to go out, outside from one of the exits there. That's closet, don't go that way. We have two public hearings tonight. The first public hearing is the proposed siting of a telecommunications equipment by Verizon Wireless on an existing utility pole. Basically, what this is a small canister antenna atop an existing utility pole on the east side of Route 9 near Old Post Road, near the Roosevelt Inn. And just to note for my colleagues and everyone else, it was approved on November 22nd by the Saratoga County Planning Board. So this is a public hearing at 6 o'clock. Is anyone here to speak on that? Well, I'll close the public hearing then at 6:01. So you guys came all the way up here for, that, but, so this will likely be on our agenda next time for action, so. The second public hearing is amending local law number 1 to authorize a waiver of the penalty provision. As you know, we purchased Saratoga Water Services on October 1st, and we then, for payments that were in arrears, we had to re-levy them fairly quickly afterwards. Our normal schedule of fees calls for a $100 re-levy fee. Because of the fact that this was such a quick turnover, the board has decided that it would be unfair to charge that $100. So this public hearing is that the town board is proposing to waive the fee for the re-levy for water rents in 2024, and only 2024. Anyone wishing to speak on that? Geez, be nice if the whole meeting goes this easy. So at 6:03, we'll close that public hearing. Next, we have a presentation. It's a request to extend the C2 zoning at State Farm Place. This is, you must be Michael Roman from C2 Architects and Jonathan Rosebloom from R2 Development. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Good evening. Michael Roman from C2 Design Group here this evening just to kind of present a request. We are looking to extend the C2 Route 67 West overlay to the properties owned by R2 Development as shown on our site plan here. For those that are not familiar, just kind of give a reference, there's 4 lots over in this area. For proposed empty lots, which is lot 40, lot 10, and then 25. The purpose of this request is basically right now based on what it's zoned is office, and we're looking to take it and really not create anything different. It's just take what you guys have now and allows us more flexibility to construct down the road wholesale, light technology, or I'm sorry, light industrial and technology within these areas. Otherwise, we're kind of really focused specifically on office space, which I think for the most part over the last few years has been quite difficult. So the idea with this request is to take the existing overlay and extend it onto these available lots that we look to develop down the road. We did provide a concept right now. Again, all of this is subject to look at as we find interest in these lots. But this allows us to consider other options at these locations based on tenants that we've been talking to over the last year or so.
So just for clarification, the C2 zoning is what's in the lighter purple there now?
Yep, so everything right now, this is on the lighter purple here. This is currently what you guys showed. This is Mohawk Honda. The darker magenta areas, those are the lots that are owned by R2 Development, and that's where the request is for those lots there specifically. The other lot is already developed, that's the hotel, and behind that is State Farm.
Are those, like Mohawks, Honda, is that wetlands back there?
No, it's
Not
all,
that I'm aware.
it's all part of the State Farm PDD.
Yeah.
There's some back there.
Yep, this might not be 100% updated. I believe Mohawk Island is here, and then they had the building back behind it. But otherwise, it is part of the State Farm.
No, I think that's updated. I think that the little triangle piece
Is that
is where
including that?
where the C2 zone was previously, the overlay district was extended, I believe, in the little triangle end there. So the original Mohawk Chevy is kind of squared off.
Like, I was orientated wrong, I see the highway now. I come around.
What's that?
Nothing, I was reorientating myself to the picture.
You can zoom in.
Right, so this is all south of 67.
Yep, this right here is State Farm Place right through here.
Right, and the rest of it is
And
the
then this is
PDD.
the roundabout and coming through here. Yep. This is the hotel.
So that's already developed. And then what is the other part that's in there that's between your darker magenta? There's another little piece.
this right here?
Yeah.
So that is an existing office building.
New York State Teachers Retirement,
Oh, that's right. Okay, there's a building there. Right.
small office building that they own.
Questions, board members? I mean, basically, you just want to expand the possible uses of
Yeah, and
the
doing,
property.
right, again, it's taking what you guys have already put together through much of Route 67 and apply it to these three lots. So it'll allow us to go from office space, potential tenants, to a lot of different things.
Do you have a list of potential tenants? Can you share with us or not?
We do not have a specific tenant right now. I mean, one of the concepts that we show on this potential plan here that we did kind of lay out, and again, this is conceptual, was for just flex office space. That was one of the things that were out of the gate with this request for this rezoning, is to allow to do something similar to this. We feel that there is a need of this that we see throughout, not just Malta, but up in our area here in upstate New York. So this is something that we would look to do, fits a lot of the qualifications that you guys have set forth already. So this would be one potential thing we would look at. And then after that, with this new regulation zonings, then we have the ability to talk to some other potential tenants. But as of right now, we don't have anyone specifically other than conceptually what we put together in front of you. And then we just had a couple different images here just to show the kind of architectural design for this space based on that concept site.
What types of tenants would you foresee renting this type of, or
I think this is kind of overflow for people that need to see more office space, light industrial. It just allows for smaller, we're not looking for, by any means, this is nothing like Amazon facility. These are smaller spaces. If you look at our site plan that we had here, these are small areas, about 5,000 square feet. Some of these are even smaller, about 2,500 square feet. So the focus is on smaller businesses, not to be designed. We don't have these loading docks and everything that you're going to require for larger facilities. That's not the intent. And it's not really suitable for this site in this location either, so.
no, because, obviously traffic will be the biggest concern, but
Yeah,
then when you go for site plan, that's the kind of stuff that would be
and
evaluated
that's right through the
there.
planning. If you think about it too, really what it's zoned for right now with office, you're gonna find that there'd be a higher demand of traffic and car counts versus something of this nature. So we don't see that exceeding those counts.
So I have a question. Is it a series of smaller 5,000 square foot office, loading dock, and garages, is it?
Concept would be to build two buildings. One of the buildings potentially that we have right now, again, need to go through site and planning and stuff, is 30,000 square feet, and the other one is 35. But each of those buildings are broken up into individual smaller units that
Okay.
have, could be used for office space. It has its own entry, its own garage door. Everything is at grade. Nothing is of a loading dock.
Do they have something similar concept of that instill water in the forest area there?
Potentially, I mean, we see a lot of this throughout in different areas. I'm not familiar with that specific site.
Yeah.
But again, it's about flexibility and flex space
Flex space, yeah.
to have, yeah.
Transient type, smaller.
Yep,
growth.
and then it allows for that as businesses change their dynamics or their demands. We have the ability to work within the envelope to provide and meet their criteria and keep them as a tenant down the road, so, as opposed to them getting out of their lease and going somewhere else, so.
Your rendering shows at-grade garages, not loading docks, and so you're not expecting a lot of tractor-trailer type of,
We do not have that designed for that. We don't have the turning radiuses and stuff. This is really, again, for all surface overhead doors and stuff.
Is your focus or intended focus more on job creation potential or warehouse space and
It could be. I
storage
think that's a
space?
good point. When you start to see some of these startup companies and stuff, it does create, job creations. There is a demand to have the office component with this at the same site as opposed to someone starting off, potentially in an office environment and then having a remote area for additional storage off-site. So puts everything kind of into one space, the office with the storage.
So I guess if it is developed, what kind of a priority would you put on job growth as opposed to flex space for storage?
I think that's what's interesting about this proposed concept. It allows us to work within that envelope to accommodate what that demand should be. And I think you're going to see it change over the course of time a little bit and specifically change with the tenants.
So that I understand. I'm asking, what would you prioritize? Job creation or space for storage?
Well, I think the job creation would be important with this, to have. And you can see with some of the larger ones, we can create and accommodate their needs, especially on this one leg of the building here where we're like potentially 2,500 square foot tenants, but they can be combined as needed too, so. This really kind of takes into consideration our total square footage with also an analysis of parking and stuff. So that kind of just gives us an idea of, or not to exceed, if that makes sense, for this specific lot.
I mean, it makes sense to me. It seems like, I'm kind of surprised that when the C2 overlay was done, that it didn't go all the way to the Northway. If that was at the time of the rezoning, determined to be a good zone. It seems like it's not that heavy a lift, in my opinion.
Does it result in a more or less intensive use within the State Farm parcels that's allowed for now?
I think it'd be less because right now it's office space and for vehicles and traffic, it would be higher based on that
So you,
current office space requirement versus,
and those could be offices too, they'd just be smaller offices, not high-rise? Is that where you're going with
correct,
that?
yeah, right.
Right.
Yep, single
you.
story.
But again, if it's the extension of the C2, what you think you're gonna do now, the board should consider what any of the uses are within the C2 zone, of the overlay zone, correct? Because you're asking to
Correct.
just
What-
take what's there and
Yep, of
spread
what
it
you
over.
have currently broken out for the C2 Route 67 overlay, we would follow what's set forth already in your
Right.
regulations.
So there's no particular project before the board in any sense, it's
There-
just an extension?
There is not, it's an extension,
Right,
correct.
thank
Yeah.
you.
In order to consider this, what's the next step? Do you-
I think you'd probably want to review it with your planning department and
Right.
for input from them. You know, it would be a zoning update, so there would need to be a proposed local law that would have to be changed. It'd be similar to what we went through with the Mohawk. And, you know, the public law would then, if the board is interested in doing it, also require a public hearing. So it's going to be a much more involved process than we
Right.
had tonight. But I think if the board's interested in pursuing it, they should, you know, do the due diligence with the planning department and get some input. And there's a need for them to come back. You can have workshops or whatever direction you want to go.
Okay, well, we'll try to get some more information from planning and evaluate what the change in the zoning will be and consider it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, appreciate your time.
Okay, now we come to the formal part of our meeting, so we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and
Thank you, appreciate your help.
a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, everyone. Next, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes from our town clerk's minutes from our November 7th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is our, we'll take comments from town residents. I want to remind you that this is not a question and answer period, it's a comment period. If you have specific questions that you would like this board to address, I'd ask you to leave your phone number with the clerk or your email address, or, you know, send them in advance if you want them answered in public. So, comments from town residents. Nobody out there has anything to say? All right. Then we will move on to comments from town board and department heads. And probably won't come as a surprise that I have a few. First of all, this afternoon, I don't know if you all saw it, but it came out late, so I'm sure you haven't had time to actually look at it. I sent out the court project progress report that we received from our engineer. What I would like to do is put it on the agenda for December 2nd to, as a discussion item. So if everybody would take some time to review it, I will ask the engineer to be at that meeting to answer any questions that we may have. We had the bid opening for the mid-block crossings, so if anybody doesn't know what that is, we're planning on putting a pedestrian crossing out front of Pier on Route 9 to make safer pedestrians, so I don't have to sit in my window and watch people play Frogger to get over across the street. Two of those bids were below budget, actually, so that was good news, and Creighton Manning is reviewing those bids on our behalf. Next, tomorrow, we are having the bid opening for the Maltaville Water District. The bids call for a substantial completion by July of 2025, so that's going to come as good news to the residents down in Maltaville. That is actually a small water district that we're planning on constructing, actually for people that are underserved by potable water. I approved that a highway employee requested emergency unpaid leave of absence until mid-January regarding a family emergency. And our highway superintendent was in favor of that. We also have a court clerk who has enlisted in the Army Reserve, so she will be on leave for training until May. The court will need to try to hire a temporary employee, and they are also still down one part-time employee, so a little bit of struggle over there in the clerks, in the court. And last, but certainly not least, Four Corners Development has, that is the company that is planning to redevelop the Speedway. and they have asked to do a brief presentation on December 2nd about the proposed project. So I was planning to put them on as a presentation without any objection. Okay, that's all I have.
Several months ago, I discussed the idea of forming a public safety committee, and I'm happy to say that a discussion with the supervisor and emergency management committee, we are going to form a public safety committee. It's going to take an effect January 2025. As of right now, the committee is going to be under the purview of the emergency management committee, and what this committee is going to be able to do is it's going to be comprised initially of the members of the emergency management committee, which are members of both fire departments, Round Lake and Malta Ridge, Stillwater, Malta EMS, state police, and the sheriff's department, and other members, and town and department heads of parks, water, and other members of the committee. And they're going to be able to review how our first responder situation is in the town, budgets, maybe they need new vehicles, what areas of the town need to be focused on in the future where we're having some problems. So, and this does, it's a force multiplier. So, for example, if one of these agencies has a budget problem, we're not blindsided at the end of the year when we start doing budget discussions. We're going to know about it way in advance. If there's an area in the town that may be getting vandalized, we're going to be able to discuss that within the law enforcement partners that are in our town. We have two of the most prestigious law enforcement agencies in the state here with the Sheriff's Department and the state police. If you are interested in wanting to join this committee, please reach out to us. We would love to hear all input from, as much input as we can from the community. So I have right now.
Thanks, Matt.
Can I put that thing on? Has the judges and the court people reviewed the plans?
No, everybody got it this afternoon.
Okay.
It's in your email. Don't be shaking your head at me. Oh,
You still looking for that jacuzzi downstairs? All right, good. I'm in for it. You said 2 bids for the crossing.
the mid-block cars. We received 3 bids,
Can you just ballpark me the numbers on that?
250-ish. Yeah, one was way over budget. So there were 2 that were within budget and low bidders, so we're waiting for them to be qualified basically by Creighton Manning.
Yeah, that's it. Besides, I'm sorry I missed your little Thanksgiving, sit down here in the
Oh,
town.
yeah, it was
So-
very nice.
So a lot of goodies, but I missed out, but, hopefully next year.
I got something also now. Seeing that our town is going through a little bit of a growth spurt possibly, and our planning committee that we have is short a seat, and who knows what's going to happen in the future, I would like to put forth a resolution for the 2nd to appoint Tim Mossman. I think I pronounced that right, didn't I, Tim? Yeah, he's a longtime resident. He's been active in the high school, and I think he's very qualified and extremely interested in sitting on our planning committee. I would like to see a resolution put forth next Monday establishing that so we could vote on this.
I would support that nomination.
We actually have 4 different candidates that are interested in, we have 4 vacancies on, potentially 2 on the planning board and 2 on the zoning board. And the plan was we were going to interview those candidates and make a decision after that interview process. I wanted to include the chairmans of each of the zoning board and the planning board in on that. So kind of like to hold off on that till the end, till the end of December. In between, we'll take the opportunity to, in all fairness,
How
interview.
long has that seat been vacant?
The zoning board's been vacant since we it's an alternate on the zoning board since I took office. But
So you're going to send out all the candidates, their resumes for what jobs and all that stuff? When's that happening?
And we're gonna interview them as the town.
yeah, I mean, I was first going to have them kind of vetted a bit by the
as we
planning
do
staff
it.
and the, yes. But then I thought we would interview them all together, so.
I would support appointing Tim Mosman to the planning board.
All these, well, they don't have to be filled before the January organizational meeting, do they? Or they can,
Well, no.
as we go?
They can be
We
formed
can
at the organizational
fill 'em
meeting
now.
appointments,
Yeah,
so.
we can actually fill them right now, I think, right?
Well, we can do that at any time, but like I say, I thought in fairness, we should
Yeah.
at least interview the other
Well, it's
candidates.
sat empty now for 2 months, and the zoning board is set, how long now?
But there was a vacancy on the zoning board when I took office, an alternate. And the planning board member recently resigned. I think there's been one meeting. So. Be interested in interviewing or?
I think that's the fairest way to deal with it if you have enough people interested.
I would like to see all the candidates and read their resume
Okay,
at a minimum, even before the other planning board and the zoning board make their cuts. I'd like to see the whole basket.
I mean, there's no urgency.
No, just,
But I do want to get it done so that on the organizational meeting, we can make those appointments. So,
I'd actually like to see it done before then, especially if you have 4 candidates that are interested in this. Why
right.
wait?
Well, Al has already said that he would like to interview the candidates before we make a final decision,
This is what
as would Barbara, so.
I think I said I wanted to read their resumes
Read the, right. Send those to you
before
tomorrow.
the other committees make cuts in that. Then we don't see their resume because they picked who they wanted. So I would like to be,
Oh, no, I want the board to interview.
okay, that's up.
So we'll see their resumes tomorrow, did you say?
Yeah, I can send them out tomorrow,
Thank
what
you.
I've gotten from them. So,
And we'll act accordingly,
and we'll act accordingly.
exactly.
Yes.
Comments, anything else? Barbara?
I do have something. I would like to congratulate the Chengo Elementary School, which was recently identified and recognized by U.S. News and World Report as #1 among top-rated elementary schools in the Albany Capital Region. They received an overall score on the ranking of 95.59 out of a possible 100. This is not the first year that they have made this list. It's a great recognition for a school district that is kind of small. The Shen is a big district, but the elementary school serves a smaller area, part of the Shen district. The current principal is Michelle DeSenza, and I congratulate her and the staff and all of the students and parents who are involved at that school. Great work, and isn't it nice to have the one school we have in Malta is recognized as one of the best in the region.
Yeah, thanks, Barbara.
Well, that explains a lot because my 3 kids went to Chango and that's why they're all smarter than me. So be it. Maybe they'll fit this seat soon. I'll pass that word.
Anything else?
Yes. There's
you
been
had
a
your-
lot of discussion recently about continuing with the designated deputy that's assigned to our town. I just want to clarify to everybody that there is always sheriff's patrols in Malta, along with state police, along with the state police barracks, that we're always funding, all of you taxpayers are funding the sheriff's department and the state police through your taxes. We did a 1-year trial period. We gave the sheriff's department additional money for a specialized patrol, an additional deputy. At the time of the budget passing, there was not a proposed 2025 contract that came down from the sheriff's department. That is why It primarily was not in our 2025 budget. I believe mid-December, Craig?
After December 12th, I have asked Sheriff Zerlo to meet as a group here to reconsider the funding of that and how we're gonna fund it, and the language in the contract, and modify it if we have to. There's been a little bit of questions regarding if it's one sheriff or if it's two sheriffs or two cars. And to be honest, I'm not sure if it's two cars or one car at this point. So at that time, we can get all the facts. There shouldn't be any issues. At the same time, I'm hoping to renegotiate the actual finances of that contract. And that's gonna be set up after December 12th, probably shortly after that, as a group.
And I want to assure everybody, as a retired member of the state police, as a trooper who patrolled this town, having a long, extensive, great working relationship with the sheriff's department, the town of Malta has a lot of police coverage, more so than probably the average community in the state of New York. We are going to look at the proposed contract, and we are never going to put public safety in danger. That is our number one priority in the entire board. I feel I can speak for the entire board on that. We'll keep you updated, and that's one of the reasons also why we wanted to form a public safety committee. So there is periodic reviews of what's going on with all of our first responding agencies that support our town. That's all I have.
Okay, move on to the agenda, discussion items. All of these items are items that we will discuss tonight for possible action next week on December 2nd. The first is to approve utility easements to Niagara Mohawk on the Dunning Street residential subdivision. We didn't act on these last time because our town attorney had some questions about some modifications he wanted, basically, and the National Grid came back. They did agree to some modifications that have satisfied our town attorney. So basically, it's the easements are for the gas and electric for that Dunning Street residential. The problem was that it didn't really guarantee that or show the proposed sidewalk. But we got new maps drawn, and they've reduced the footprint of the easement so we can be sure we have sidewalks there. So we'll propose that we act on that next week. Any questions? The next one is the water line easement from New York State. So that would be giving an easement. This is getting an easement. At 106 Dunning, what it is the water line. They would give us an easement so that we would basically have, control over the water line now that we are in the water business. We probably, unless we find something new next week, we may not act on that. Town attorney had some questions and some current concerns, so I put it on here. If we hear between now and then we might, but we also might pull it from next week's agenda. Any questions? Next is you may have heard of our Petals plan. I think, yep, the clerk has put it up there. Basically, we received a $1.6 million grant to provide pedestrian pathway along from Taddeo to the Stonebreak Road roundabout. It's an underserved population, it includes Malta Gardens. Quite often you see pedestrians walking on the shoulder there. But in order for us to actually move forward with this project, we need an agreement with the Department of Transportation. So put the slide up there so you can see kind of the where the project is. It is a multi-use trail with amenities, benches, and lighting. So we're looking forward to getting that started. So our town attorney has reviewed that master agreement with Pedos, made a few tweaks, and so he has approved that we move forward with that.
You're saying that the Department of Transportation has approved it or hasn't gotten it
Our
yet?
town attorney has approved it. It was proposed by the Department of Transportation. We have to accept it.
Okay.
So if we go forward with this to the taxpayer of Malta, it's roughly around $300,000. That would be coming out of taxpayers' money.
I think it is, because there is a shared amount.
If we approve this agreement with DOT, does that lock us in that it is going to go forward, or is?
Well, that locks us into getting $1.6 million from the DOT, basically.
Well, I'm saying if we approve this, are we going to be spending $300,000?
Yes, likely.
I thought we were paying all of
It's
it
al-
up
that-
front.
The project has already been approved by this board. This is to accept the agreement with the DOT.
No, it's just about money, but we gotta pay up front and then get reimbursed. I just
Right,
want the public to understand, you know, where the money is in the piggy bank. It keeps on coming out. Yeah,
Right.
sidewalks along Route 9 is safe, you know, should be up and down the whole thing if you ask me.
Well, we're working on that, Al. We're working on that.
Slowly.
Well,
Wait till my kids get up here and
Yeah.
fill the seat.
oh, it'll be before that.
Cynthia,
Yes,
is it a sidewalk or is it?
it's a multi-use trail.
It's what?
Multi-use
Yeah,
trail.
sidewalk was a bad
Is
term.
it along the street or is it?
Yes,
It is along the street.
right. It's from Taddeo to, actually, does it go farther than Stonebreak Road? Looks like it goes up to Saratoga Village Boulevard. Down to, right.
The reason why,
You can walk it,
Rollerblade it.
file down there that shows you how it's gonna lay up against Route 9 in the right of way.
so.
So
it
there'll
is a
be
sidewalk,
trees.
though.
Well, it's a 10-foot wide multi-use
The
trail.
reason why I'm asking is, when I was on the Department of or the Capital District Regional Transportation Policy Board, they came out with a large focus on trails, hiking trails, biking trails, and I'm thinking like to myself, what's their priority is changing, and that's how come I asked that question. But I prefer a sidewalk.
Oh, well,
What is the length of the trail?
the total length? Do we know? Yeah.
Mile, 2 miles, half a mile?
Actually, it's probably, looking at the map, it probably,
I guess in maybe a mile,
yeah,
if that,
I think it's, yeah.
yeah. Right. And it's already budgeted, our budget,
It's,
right?
right, it's already approved by this board. This is just the
I
agreement.
think we were thanking Adrian that got this deal for us, right? Yeah,
Yes, it
he's
was
the one-
Adrian. Yep.
He gets his name in the concrete.
Well, so the next is I'm hoping that we will finally adopt the amended Human Resources Handbook. We did get a request from the court to add this language. The employee handbook is largely designed to address the employees under the administrative branch of government. The town court is a separate branch of government as per the United States and New York Constitution. As such, the court is not a department, and its employees are governed by New York State judiciary law. Where conflicting policies may be written, the judiciary law will take precedence over town policies. The consultant's response was, we would recommend against that language. Your current handbook and our proposed draft both state statutes, laws, and ordinances in the event of a local or state statute or a town law or ordinance should conflict with any provision contained in this employee handbook, then such statute, law, or ordinance will prevail. That should be sufficient. Court employees are town employees and should be subject to the same rules, policies, and practices as all other employees. The suggested language seems confusing and unnecessary. So, discussion?
What does a town attorney think?
So,
I had a conversation with Judge Sloat about it. I think the purpose for requesting the clarity, it's come up in the past, not necessarily just with the court. It's a similar problem that has with elected officials. And, they're still in appointed officials. In one of the reasons and one of the things that's been reviewed and updated by the company we've engaged for that purpose was to update some of these inconsistencies based upon the language that's in the statute that says if there's an existing statute that conflicts with this, that it governs and controls. I'm satisfied with that. At the same time, I want to make sure that the court officials are equally satisfied.
that's a lot of words. So you agree with the language or not?
I don't have a position on the language itself. I have, my point is that we've engaged a consultant to draft this, and they've made the recommendation to the board that it's not necessary to add the language that was requested. I see in the fact that we already have a provision in the agreement that says statutes control, that it's covered. If the court isn't satisfied with that, or you're not satisfied with that,
No, I just, it's a handbook. It's not the contingency book that covers everything that's going to pop up, and common sense
these are
usually
the
will prevail.
rules and process and procedures for any employee in the town to comply with. I think the issue for example, there's a difference between certain clerks in the town court. They are appointed and approved by the judges. They're their own clerks. They're still town employees. They're paid by the town. You still set their salary. So there's always this little give and take. The broader picture that I think the Judge Sloat was asking for is that it's a unique situation. We all go back to, probably learned it in the Chango schools where they got a great award. We have separations of powers, and those same rules apply even in the municipality. So it's just being sensitive and aware that as a board, there are some barriers that push up against when it comes to the court. And the court has every right to require and request that, we are different than the other departments. Again, I think the primary concern is addressed by the language saying that statutes supersede the handbook. But I'm not as adamant that some language, if the court feels necessary to be included in our handbook, I don't think legally is going to derail our handbook in any way. It's a lot of words. Hope it helped.
I'm getting closer to getting the gist of it, so. They want immunity, right?
No, they don't want to.
No, I'm just joking. I understand that there's got to be a distinct, I understand. And I'm not here to say the town handbook should override anything that's on the books for law. Obviously not. That's, that's crazy,
Again, the other point of this is if I'm comfortable with the board approving the handbook as it is, it is something that can be easily amended by the town board with consultation with the court as well. I mean, if we're not so inclined, our consultant has said this language is probably too broad, goes too far. If there's other language that satisfies the court, it could always be added after the fact or before next week, and we can address that in the meantime and see.
Is it possible if the court wants to add a small disclosure at the start of it to separate it, to clarify it?
That's what our consultant has said they don't think is a good idea. So what I'm saying is we could come to some other language that is sufficient, or we can approve it without it based upon the language that's within the plan.
And if we want to
And
edit it in afterwards,
And we could certainly edit it afterwards.
I'm fine with that.
Everybody good? Next, this board needs to actually adopt the comptroller's court audit. She didn't find any inconsistencies, so that shouldn't really be any problem, unless anybody has any questions on that report. Next, we want to renew the vendor service agreement with Prestige Services. Basically, it expires on the December 2nd, is why we have to do it before the organizational meeting. Our Director of Parks and Rec says they're satisfied with the service. The price went up nominally from last year. They fill our vending machines at the community center, if that was what you were going to ask. Oh, there's no cost to the contract. Oh, okay.
Still $1 for every item?
Portion of the sales.
They-
exceeds a
okay.
certain threshold, but they fill the machines and they collect all the lines, we just get a portion of it, so we're okay. Small, but we don't
Yeah.
have to maintain the
We don't have to maintain them, we don't have to fill them.
service provided to the
All right.
local community center.
In the past, we owned them, filled them, and it was not fun, so. Assuming no one has a problem with that. We also need to renew the Town of Malta Volunteer Fire Service Award Program next week. That it's, it's standard with Penflex, who has been providing that service for the Town of Malta for probably since the beginning. So that's not much different. We have to, before the first of the year, establish the 2025 fee schedule. It's been modified. Most of the fees went up some of the planning and zoning went up, and of course, then we had to add fees for our water department. So it's just fees for anything you can think of, renting pavilions, renting space at the community center, having your water installed, getting a building permit,
Were there
zoning.
any new fees added, or these
The
are-
new fees that were added are just as a result of the water district.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Otherwise, it's just regular,
Regular, they all went up by a certain percentage, so. We also have to establish the 2025 wage and salary structure. During our budget conversations, this board agreed that our wage and salary structure needs some attention and some work. It's kind of cumbersome, and we want to reevaluate that structure. And I'm hoping that during the first quarter of 2025, we can take some time, reevaluate that wage and salary structure, because it is kind of confusing, and in some cases, it doesn't quite really seem quite fair. But that being said, we still need to establish the current structure in order to pay people in January, so that it's basically the same salary structure that we have had that we'll need to approve. And then we'll look at it after the first of the year. All good? And then we will establish the 2025 wage and salary schedule. That wage and salary schedule may change when we approve or adopt the union contract. Once that's finalized and adopted, there are some changes that will likely be made to the wage and salary schedule. Any questions? We are going to also authorize vacation carryover. The town of Malta allows employees to carry over a certain amount of vacation time. There will be 9 employees that have requested to carry over vacation time, so we'll have those next week. Last on the agenda is, we got talking about it, and our regular meeting is scheduled for December 30th. And I'm going to ask the board that we reschedule that meeting for December 23rd, before Christmas, instead of in that weird time between Christmas and New Year's. Any objections to that?
I like it.
All right.
What day was that? The
23rd. And so next, we'll open it up again to public comment. Anybody out there have anything they want to add now? Before we leave, I want to make a couple of remarks that, as we know, this is Thanksgiving week, and on this Thanksgiving, I'm reminded of all of the things that we all have to be thankful for. We are all lucky to live in what I think is a great town, and a great county, and a great country. So that's something to be thankful for. I also am thankful for our town family, which is everyone, each and every one of them and us. Works hard every day to keep this town running. And so on behalf of the town board, I want to wish everyone a happy and healthy holiday. With that, anybody else?
Yeah, I just wanted to request that perhaps we could go into executive session to discuss current fire contracts briefly.
Yep.
So I just want to remind you that I was
Yep,
hoping to do
it was
that.
on my list.
Oh, sorry.
So with that, I'll request that we repair into executive session and to tell the public that we will not conduct any further business tonight, so you don't have to hang around and make sure.
You're going to need a motion in a second
yeah.
for that.
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, everybody, and have a great Thanksgiving.